I do not talk enough about my guava trees. The reason is that I often feel there is not much to say about them since they are so trouble-free. Don't get me wrong. I think any tropical fruit tree lover should have at least one guava tree. They are the only tropical fruit trees I feel confident about growing long-term indoors as houseplants in a cold climate. Well, I also like citrus trees, but they do tend to produce a sticky sap when they are under stress indoors. My potted guava trees grown from seed have always remained super clean, and they are pretty resistant to many of the pests that my other tropical plants struggle with every winter indoors, like scales and spider mites. Not only are guava trees easy to take care of, they are also very easy to propagate, even easier than fig trees. This video is dedicated to people in my viewership who wanted to hear more on this specific topic. I will also talk about some generalities that could be of interest to a larger audience. So do not hesitate to skip ahead if you find what I'm saying is too trivial. I am going to talk specifically about propagating guava trees from cuttings. First of all, why would you want to propagate guava trees from cuttings? The main reason, in my opinion, is that guavas are not true to seed. This means that if you like a guava fruit and decide to plant the seeds from it, the trees you will get will not bear the same fruits. This is also true for other characteristics. For example, I'm probably lucky to have a guava tree grown from seed that is very easy to keep indoors in winter time. If I were to propagate it again from seeds, the seedlings might not inherit the good genetics that allow the parent tree to thrive in an indoor environment. I must say though that my guava sapling has not flowered yet. That will be the cherry on top if one day it also decides to flower and produce delicious fruits for me. But it is a beautiful plant, and that is enough for me to keep it. Propagating from cuttings is also the way to go if your guava tree is already mature enough to flower, or even better to set fruit. You will not only get the exact same fruits from cuttings, but you will also get the fruits much faster than from seedlings. My guava seedling is 3 years old, and as already mentioned, it has never flowered. There are different ways to propagate guavas from cuttings, like air layering and grafting. Grafting is probably the better choice if you are to plant the tree in the ground down the road. But if you will keep your guava trees potted, rooting the cuttings is a great alternative. Guavas have fibrous root systems, so growing them in pots is fairly easy compared with other tropical fruit trees. In colder climates, I think people are more used to rooting cuttings in soil or sand, with sometimes the addition of rooting hormones. I did just that here with my nectarine cuttings. I've also used this method on guava cuttings. But there is a cheaper and easier way for guavas. Just root them in water like you would with tomato cuttings. No rooting hormones needed. Here are a couple of things I do to maximize my success rate, which is often above 50% with this method. In my cold climate, I like to transplant the cuttings to soil in spring or early summer, so that the cuttings can experience a strong growth phase during the warm season right after transplantation, without the pest pressure of an indoor wintertime environment. Since guava cuttings can take up to 3 months to produce roots of about 1 to 2 inches, I like to take the cuttings from my tree between December and February. A key criteria in my opinion is that the mother tree should be in good health and growing, which can require an ambient temperature of about 20 degrees Celsius and some supplemental light in winter time, depending on the guava variety. If you cannot achieve these conditions indoors in winter time, then I think it's preferable to wait for the warmer season to take the cuttings. A healthy and growing guava tree always has a few small branches with green tips. I like to take these small branches that have a thickness of about 5 mm. The length of the green tip should be small. If the green tip is too long, it has been my experience that the cutting often withers afterwards, especially in a dry air environment. Ideally, the cuttings should have a few small leaves, in addition to the young leaves and green buds at the tip of the branch. If the leaves are too big, I cut them in half. Again, this is to minimize dehydration of the cuttings. I place the cuttings in a cup of water as soon as I take them from the mother tree. Usually I only feed my indoor plants with rainwater, but for rooting cuttings I prefer using tap water. The reason is that tap water contains chlorine, which kills a wide range of bacteria and algae. Since the guava cuttings are going to spend months in a cup of water, it is important to keep the immersed parts of the cuttings as clean as possible. I found that with tap water, the cuttings stay clean and healthy longer. Nevertheless, even in chlorinated water, bacteria and algae will develop over time, so I don't hesitate to clean the cuttings if I spot any green or brownish deposits on them. Also, changing the water and cleaning the cup should be part of a routine, maybe once a week. I do not add any fertilizer to the tap water. I just make sure the cuttings are exposed to sufficient light, ideally sunlight, but LED lights have also worked well for me. With healthy cuttings, white calyces should appear within weeks. Once the white calyces appear on a guava cutting, success is almost guaranteed. From that point on, it's just a matter of patience and dedication to keep the water and the cutting clean until the roots appear. As previously indicated, I usually wait for the roots to get to a length of at least 1 inch before transplanting to soil, but 2 or 3 inches are better, which can take up to 3 months, right on time for a transplantation in spring. I have been quite lazy a few times in the past and let the cuttings for months in very little water after the roots had appeared. You can see how the roots are covered with algae here, but the cuttings wouldn't die as long as there was still a little bit of water in the cup. Guava cuttings are very resilient. Notice how this one produced a new stem from the base, with literally nothing else than tap water for almost 6 months. I eventually transplanted these cuttings in fall. They are still alive and are doing just fine. But they have not grown as fast as this one, which was transplanted in spring. So don't worry if your timing is not ideal. Just do it. Once the cuttings are transplanted to soil, a warm and sunny summer is all it takes for them to start growing fast. Just make sure they get plenty of water. That is all there is to it, I think. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.